Hello and welcome to Elecspo, and thanks to you demanding people, here is part 6 of what would happen if Celtic and Rangers were in the Premier League. After 15 seasons, I think we're finally starting to see some progress. Celtic have established themselves in the top half, they've had a cup run as well, while Rangers aren't embroiled in a relegation battle every year that normally results in them going up and down from the Premier League to the Championship like your sister's knickers. I'm sorry, I'm sure she's a lovely lass, she'll be able to do whatever she wants without being judged. But anyway, today it's time for part 6. Like I say, things are looking up, and we've also had a takeover at Celtic Park. But what will happen in the next 3 seasons? Let's find out. Right, this is where we left things in 2035. Celtic had just came 9th in the Premier League with 57 points. Meanwhile, Rangers were 15th. Rangers have normally been in the bottom half, but at least they are surviving. As for Celtic, a 9th place finish for them this season wasn't good enough, as they are now on the lookout for a new manager. They've sacked Eddie Howe for a second time, which is more than they'll get the chance to do in reality after he pied them off the other day. But how will they get on going into the new season? Who will they appoint? It's exciting to see. Obviously last time we did find the limitations of the simulation, that I'd made a mistake with the database, because even though Celtic were coming 7th, they still weren't qualifying for Europe. I've realised in the comments now what mistake I'd made, so next time we do this for FM22, things should go off without a hitch. But let's simulate a year in the future. Let's see what happens by the summer of 2036. Right, here we are, the 15th of June 2036, season 16 of Celtic and Rangers being in English football, and both teams have just had their best ever finish. Both teams, for the first ever time, have finished in the top half. Rangers, they just had their best ever finish. I mean, they've both had the best ever finish, I've just told you that. But Rangers is particularly impressive. They have came 10th with 49 points. I mean, if you look at the relegation, it looks like there was no real threat of anyone other than those three going down. Brighton only got 26 points, Burnley got 24, and Derby got 19. So 3 very poor teams, which has helped the other sides get a lot more points. Rangers finishing 10th with 49 points. They were still 17 points shy of Celtic. Celtic, they have came 6th. Again, I mean, they should be playing the Europa League next season, but because I hadn't changed the nationality from Scottish to English, unfortunately, they're just going to have to settle for domestic football. But at least we do know now that after 16 years, Celtic are going on to become a force in English football. Well, not a force, but, you know, they've breached the top 6. They've finished above Chelsea there, which is pretty impressive. Who did Celtic appoint, though? We'll start with Celtic because they finished highest in the league. They had the biggest assist getter of the season, John Jairo Castaneda. He's a Colombian attacking midfielder. He's had a very good year, 11 goals and 12 assists. Let's go and look at Celtic, see who they appointed. They have gone for Darren Ferguson. Obviously, famously, the son of Sir Alex Ferguson. Darren Ferguson getting his first crack in the Premier League, to my knowledge. He's been there for a year, and he's got Celtic to 6th place. That is a wonderful finish. Let's see if he's spent any big money. Obviously, there was the takeover a year prior. He hasn't spent that much. Only 3 players arrived. £68 million spent. I mean, it'll be more than that with the add-ons, but I mean, considering the year before they spent 370 million, obviously they did spend some of that money at the end of the campaign, so it didn't roll on to the next year, but still not as much money as I'd expected. Reece James went out on loan. That's no good for the thumbnail. The problem is when we're getting this deep in, I'm running out of players to put in the thumbnails. I mean, am I going to have to put Darren Ferguson in there? Well, I suppose you'll know by now. But anyway, let's have a look at the schedule, see how Celtic got on, see if there was any cup success. I mean, 6th place finish is fantastic. In the League Cup, they were knocked out by Chelsea early on in the 3rd round. As for the FA Cup, they didn't get past the 3rd round, where they were beaten by Arsenal. So 2 tough draws, but at least they've had a successful season in the Premier League. How did the Old Firm games go? The first one was won by Celtic at Ibrox. Rangers went down to 9 men, while Celtic ran out 3-0 winners, with Gaz Brady kicking off the scoring in the 6th minute. Good old Gaz. I took the return fixture, and it was Celtic who did the double. 2 games in a row, Celtic won 3-0. Yet again, Gaz Brady scoring. There was no red cards for Rangers this time. But in this season, Celtic have won the Old Firms at an aggregate of 6-0. And they've even got a centre-back just called Max. I'm going to guess he's a 28-year-old Brazilian just called Max. He feels Gaz Brady's a great team leader in the dressing room. I love the regenerated Brazilian names. I mean, just max is fantastic, valued at £41 million. So Celtic, obviously no cup success, but they have had joy in the Premier League. Their best ever finish, their best player at the club, Daniel Little, the captain. Castaneda's done well, he's arrived from Chelsea. Kayo's had a decent season. The top scorer was, of course, Gaz Brady with 16 goals. It looks like Celtic are something of an exciting team. 4 different players hitting double figures in all competitions. It's what we want to see. But how have their rivals Rangers got on themselves? As we say, they've came 10th. Disappointing performances in the old firms. Have they at least had any cup success that can lord over Celtic? They got beaten in the 4th round of the League Cup by Arsenal. Another red card there. A lot of disciplinary issues at Ibrox. As for the FA Cup, they were beaten in the 3rd round by Tottenham. So, I mean, actually, 2036 hasn't been a great year for Rangers. They started off the season pretty well. That's where most of their wins came from. In the second half of the year, well, in 2036 rather, they only won 3 Premier League games in total against Villa, Crystal Palace and relegated Brighton. But it doesn't matter because they have just finished 10th in the Premier League, and of course it's still Philip Cocu calling the shots. Transfers, Rangers spent £72 million. They spent more than Celtic. I mean, that's even without, I'm going to assume there hasn't been a takeover at Rangers. Not since 2029, that was the last time Rangers had a change of ownership. But this summer they spent more money than Celtic. I mean, there's no name sticking out for me there. And they only brought in £17.5 million. It's one of the first years in a long time that Rangers have spent a lot more money than they brought in. Who was the top player at Ibrox? Let's have a little look before we move into the second season. Out of the consistent starters, it looks like it was Corey Calicia, a German centre midfielder, 1 goal, 8 assists. I mean, Christ, a lot of the lone players have been doing brilliantly. Joshua Chibuizi, 19 goals for Fortuna Dusseldorf. You wonder why he isn't playing in the first team. I'm going to assume this Hosselu isn't the real Hosselu. No, it's a regen. Imagine if it was the real big Hoss. Obviously, the man of Newcastle and Stoke fame, now tearing it up at, I think, is it Alaves? Either way, he's doing much better there than he was at Newcastle. But anyway, that is the star players from Rangers. And it's been a wonderful first season to look at in Part 6. Celtic coming 6th, Rangers coming 10th. Things are looking up in Glasgow. But what will the summer of 2037 bring? Let's find out. Okay, here we are, the 21st of June 2037, and there's been something of a decline for the old firm club. Celtic no longer in the top half. They just finished 12th, only getting 48 points. As for Rangers, they've dipped out of the top half as well, finishing in 16th and probably just been battling relegation. They finished 5 points clear of Aston Villa, who came 18th. But at least Rangers are still in the Premier League. I mean, I'm taking everything Rangers do, you know, I'm giving them a lot of credit, a lot of pats on the back. I mean, merely just for surviving. Because for so long they were just going up and down, up and down, up and down. It was pretty annoying to see. But for Celtic, that is disappointing to come 12th. Let's have a look at them. They've changed manager again. Darren Ferguson has been replaced. He got the sack on the 14th of February and he's been replaced by Sergio Conceição, Portuguese manager, a veteran of the game. Obviously, he's the Porto manager in real life, but I mean, in this simulation, he's managed some big clubs, Man United, Juventus, Chelsea, and now he is the Celtic manager, a man who could possibly take Celtic to even wilder heights. I mean, he's the biggest name they've had in the dugout, so perhaps he could be the man to, you know, restore Celtic to some glory. I'm going to have a little look at the Premier League table, see where they were when Darren Ferguson got the sack. So he was axed on the 14th of February, Valentine's Day. A heartbreaking day for Darren Ferguson. He'll have had to go home to the wife, who will have no doubt had to just dry his tears with a tea towel. Anyway, let's have a look. They weren't doing that badly, actually. I mean, they weren't doing great in relative terms to how well they've been doing in previous seasons, but I mean, under Conceição, it's not like they've got any better. If anything, they dipped even lower down the table. At one point, they were 14th. In the end, they've came 12th, which is, I mean, in recent years, it's quite disappointing for Celtic. As for Rangers, only getting 39 points. We're going to have a look at Celtic first. Let's have a look at the schedule, see how they got on, see if there was any cup success. League Cup again, they were knocked out early, losing in the 4th round on penalties to Southampton. As for the FA Cup, knocked out by Chelsea. I mean, this has actually been quite a poor year for Celtic. I mean, if you look at the form, it's just not been great at all. A little late flurry in the final few weeks of the season have somewhat salvaged things, but in the grand scheme of things, pretty disappointing. Let's have a look at the Old Firm, see how they went. The first was a 0-0 draw at Ibrox, so Rangers stopping the rot there. But that's a few games in a row that they haven't been able to score against Celtic. As for the return fixture, it was another 0-0 draw. Christ, what a dull state of affairs it's been in Glasgow this season. Let's have a look at the transfers, see what Celtic have done. £186 million spent. That's a lot of money, but still £188 million coming into the club. So actually, it's been pretty even on the transfer front, but it is a big amount of money being spent there by Celtic. The biggest fee was £70 million for a man called Matthew Houston from Everton. A striker, he's never played for his country, £91,000 a week. He's only just joined. That's a lot of money for a man who has had one good season in the Championship. I suppose we'll see next season how he gets on, but on the face of it, that's a massive waste of money. But I mean, I suppose we'll find out. Let's go and look at Rangers, see how they've got on. Obviously, actually, before we go anywhere, the Colombian star from this team, Castaneda, he's gone to Man United for £98 million. I mean, that just proves the kind of players Celtic are getting through the door. He's had a great season again at Celtic. Sold for £98 million. Huge money going out of Celtic Park, and it just shows what a player Celtic had on their hands. But now let's go and have a look at Rangers. Obviously, they've came 16th. They're still sticking with Philip Cocu. He's been there for bloody ages. I mean, how old's he now? 66 years old. Surely in the next few years, he's got to retire. He's got a contract until 2040. He's going to be here forever, man. Christ. Let's have a look at the schedule, see how the Cups went. They were beaten in the 3rd round of the League Cup by Burnley. Championship Burnley, of course. They got relegated last season. It was a pretty terrible start of the season, in all honesty, for Rangers. FA Cup, FA Cup was a little bit better. They made it to the quarter-finals where they were beaten by Tottenham. So they've had a little bit of a cup run, and at least they have survived in the Premier League. So it's not the worst season in the world for Rangers. In terms of money spent, £63 million. And they made a profit though, with £74 million being made on transfers. So again, pretty sensible stuff from Rangers. They're being steady. But 16th is disappointing after finishing 10th last year. Celtic the biggest disappointment, 12th in the league, awful cup performances, and the new man Sergio Conceição's got a real job on his hands to take Celtic back into the top half. But can he do that by 2030? That's going to be the last season we're going to look at in part 6 of this series. Let's dive another year into the future. Let's see what happens. Okay, here we are, the 13th of June 2038, the 18th season of Celtic and Rangers in English football. And it's been another one that's been slightly disappointing on the face of it. Celtic yet again finishing in the bottom half, only coming 11th with 49 points. As for Rangers, it looks like it's been another relegation battle, but it's a relegation battle where they've came out on top. They finished 15th at the end of the day with 38 points. Let's go and look at Celtic straight away. Obviously they finished 1st. Sergio Conceição still the manager, despite a disappointing finish, to be honest, finishing 12th and then 11th. I mean, considering Eddie Howe got the sack for coming 7th, I think Celtic need to have a little bit of a word with themselves. Let's have a look at the schedule, see how things went. It was a good start at the season, in all fairness. Even in the Cups they were doing well. They made it to the semi-finals of the League Cup, which is a good run, but unfortunately they were beaten by Manchester City. They lost 5-2 on aggregate in the semi-finals, meaning Celtic didn't make it to the cup final. As for the FA Cup, it was another decent run. They made it to the quarterfinals where they were knocked out by Leeds. But at least it is a little bit of progress. You know, they're getting to the latter stages of the tournament. Still though, they haven't tasted silverware. That is 18 years now in which Celtic haven't won a single honour. I mean, at least Rangers have won the Championship a couple of times. I mean, Celtic have never been in the Championship, but that doesn't matter. Let's have a look at the Old Firm games. The first one was a 1-1 draw at Celtic Park. Still, Rangers going on a long run without a win. And in the return fixture at Ibrox, it was a 2-1 win for Celtic. Michael Yates with a brace. It was late drama. Mendes put Rangers in front in the 71st minute. By the end of the game, it was Celtic who came out on top with a Michael Yates brace. Have a look at the transfer, see what money Celtic have been spending. Not massively. They only brought in £14 million. A lot of players going out on loan. 3 men arrived for £68 million. I mean, Christ, what was happening that year when they spent nearly £400 million? I thought that was going to be like a rich new era at Celtic Park, but it hasn't turned out to be that at all. As for Rangers, let's have a little dive into how they've done. Obviously, they came 15th in the Premier League. At least they have survived. I mean, this has been a consistent run in the Premier League. Obviously, before they were struggling just to put a couple of seasons together. From now, they've been in the Premier League 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 seasons in a row. That is pretty damn good. Let's have a look at the transfers, see if they've spent any big money. £69 million, it's pretty standard now for Rangers. They're spending about the same amount of money every year, and it's £37 million coming back into the club. It's pretty standard, it's safe. It's not a massive amount of money, but it is big money considering they are in the Premier League. It's fairly solid. Let's have a look at the schedule, see how things went. Obviously, we know what happened in the Old Firm games. The League Cup, they were knocked out by Arsenal in the 4th round. Oh my God, we've had a cup. Rangers have gone and bloody done it. Rangers have won the FA Cup. Finally, we have a team who has triumphed in a domestic competition. You all thought it would have been Celtic, the first team to taste success, but it is Rangers who have won the FA Cup. Let's have a look at that, at their journey to Wembley. It kicked off in the 3rd round with a 2-1 win over Newport, a Hosselu brace. Then they beat Stoke 2-0 at Ibrox. They had home draws a lot. 5th round, a big win over Chelsea at Ibrox. Quarterfinals, 3-1 against Forest. An exciting first 7 minutes there, 3 goals in the first 7 minutes. They set up an FA Cup semi-final with Leeds where they absolutely battered them at Wembley. A 3-0 win, setting up an FA Cup final date with Manchester United. A huge game at Wembley, which for some reason wasn't a sellout. Only 83,000 fans inside Wembley for that FA Cup final. But it was a dramatic game, and an 85th minute penalty from Irvin Doda won it for Rangers. Finally, one of these two clubs have won a trophy. It's taken 18 years. And Rangers are the first team to do it. Sure, Celtic have finished in the top half multiple times. They've finished 6th, 9th, 7th, multiple times they've been in the top half. But it is Rangers, plucky little Rangers, who've been the yo-yo club. They've been a joke of the simulation. And they are the first team to taste silverware. Well done to Rangers, well done to Philip Cocker. I'm going to have a look. I mean, Philip Cocker, sure, he's got to be a club legend by now. He's still only favoured personnel. What is going on? How isn't Philip Cocker higher up than that? But never mind, because he is the man to have delivered Rangers a trophy. Celtic have been the better team throughout this simulation, but it is Rangers who will go down as history as the 2038 FA Cup winners. But will we see more success in the coming years? Let me know in the comments below if you want to see a part 7. We will leave it there. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. As always, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to Elecspo. And until next time, we will see you around.